Hi again there. Hello everyone. My name is Toba Jerry and welcomes to the second week of our lifelong learning. It's been a wonderful week anyways. I've been very excited to see everyone today and I hope we are all doing great and I hope our week went great and I hope what happened oh yeah sorry what happened every assignments given to us by the facilitators for last week. I hope we've done them because we are going to be having interesting facilitators coming up on board and to take us on most of the programming languages that we've seen. So, without wasting our time, I will just bring the facilitator for today. His name is Mr. Idris. So, he's going to be taking us Scratch programming today. And I hope we enjoy. So, you can always put down your comments on the comment sections and we'll always attend to you. Okay. So, Mr. Idris, yeah, your life, Mr. Idris.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Jerry. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UNESCO Code Arena Lifelong Learning session. I'll be taking you guys through Scratch today, and I'm Idris. I'll be taking you guys through Scratch today, and it's going to be loads of fun. So, Scratch is a programming language. Designed by students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is MIT. I guess most of you would have heard of MIT before. So it's a programming language or a tool that's used to create animation, game, and also introduces you to the foundation of programming. Gives you the basic foundation you need to pursue a career in coding or programming, as we call it. So Scratch. Scratch is a very powerful tool in the sense that you can use it to create animation, you can use it to create game, you can use it to you can also be used in the classroom to learn about different topics like music, like economics, like science. You can use Scratch to do loads and loads of things. And one of the most interesting things you can do with Scratch is to create a game. So Scratch has been in existence for a while now, and it's been used by many and many children or kids your age to build interesting and beautiful stuffs. So we will be going into Scratch today, and we're going to be doing a lot of things. I'm going to be introducing you to the basic concept of programming and what Scratch is all about. We're going to talk about different blocks in Scratch. So Scratch as a programming language uses what we call the concept of block programming. So what block programming is all about is, I know most of you would have played with Lego bricks before. Lego bricks. So blocks programming tends to imitate the concept of Lego bricks, in the sense that you build your code from start to finish. You tend to pile up codes over the other, and then you see everything work after you've piled everything up, just like how you build structures with your Lego brick. So we would see that about Scratch. There are different blocks of code in Scratch, a lot that we're going to be introducing you to. So Scratch has been used by millions of children in the world today. A lot of children have been involved in Scratch, and they've been actually having fun while building with Scratch. So I'll be sharing my screen, and I'll be taking you guys through the Scratch website and how you can download and install Scratch on your system. So Scratch has an offline and online version. You can either download the Scratch application and write your programs locally on your computers offline, or you can write your programs online while connected to the internet and save whatever you're writing on the cloud, so that anybody can have access to what you have written and build on it. So I'm going to walk you through how you can either download Scratch or use the online version. So I'll be sharing my screen right now. So can everyone see my screen? I'm sure you should be able to see my screen. So what is being shown on my screen right now is the official website for Scratch programming. The official website for Scratch programming. So the official website for Scratch programming. So to go on that website, what you should just do is type scratch.mit.edu on your browser, scratch.mit.edu, and it takes you to the official website for Scratch, scratch.mit.edu. So if you've been able to do that, so if you want to download Scratch, if you want to download Scratch, you can either download Scratch or you can create an account with Scratch. So one of the first things you can do is create an account with Scratch so that you become an official member on the Scratch website. So to do that, I have already loaded in my account. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to sign out and walk you through how to log in. So this is what you would see on your screen. So you can say join Scratch, then you create a username and a password, and it walks you through everything you're going to do. Then you can register on Scratch. And to use the online version of Scratch, you can always come back to this page after you have created your account and then click on the create button here. The create button here and the create button here. So when you click on this, as you can see, voila, you have the general interface, the graphical interface of Scratch. What is what you see when you open Scratch for the first time. So there are different versions of Scratch over time, and I think this is the latest version we have on, which is version 3.18.1. So to download Scratch and use offline on your system, you can always go down to you can always go down to or just come down to your URL here, then you type forward slash, you type a forward slash download. You type download. Once you do that, you'll be taken to a page where you can download your Scratch app. So when you're on this page, you just scroll down to on the page, then you see a direct download link. This is called the direct download link. So you click on it, then you're able to download the setup for Scratch. So when you've downloaded the setup for Scratch, as you can see, I made a mistake. The latest version of Scratch is version 3.25.0. So you can download that, and then you can download that and you can play around with it and install it. The installation process is very simple. Once you've downloaded the exe file, it's called an exe file. What you download from here is called an exe file. You run it on your system. Once you run it on your system, you double click on that, whatever downloads, double click on it, then follow the instructions, and then you can install Scratch on your system. Then we can start having fun. So I'm going to be sharing my offline version of Scratch on the screen so that you can see that instead of this. So let me share my offline version of Scratch. Let me share my offline version of Scratch so we can go into Scratch properly. So I am sharing my offline version of Scratch. I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm sharing my offline version of Scratch. So this is how the interface looks like. So my offline version is a bit outdated. It's a bit outdated, but we're going to be making use of it like that. So whatever you are downloading will be a bit updated than will be more updated than mine. So let's move into Scratch. So when we get into the general interface of Scratch, this is what we see on our screen. So we have this character here, this cat that looks like a cat. So it's called this character is called a sprite. It is called a sprite, and it is our cornerstone in Scratch. This is what we are doing is related to our sprite on Scratch. So it is our main character in Scratch. Our main character in Scratch. So we have a lot of sprites to choose from in Scratch. So we can go down to. I hope everyone can see my screen. So we can come down to the choose a sprite section. So this box you're seeing here, this is called the play area. This white box, this white space here is called the play area. So this is where your scratch mainly your sprite mainly operates. So this is where you see whatever you've told your sprite to do. This is where you see it happen. This white space here, the other white space by your left on where my cursor is presently, is called the stage area. The stage area. This is where you write all your codes. This is where you write all your blocks of code. So you can see by the left hand side where my cursor is presently contains lots of blocks that also looks like Lego bricks. So these are the blocks that you'll be building on each other to write your codes in Scratch. So before we move into that, so we have something here. We can see This is called Sprite 1. The name of this sprite is called Sprite 1. And we can always rename our sprite to whatever sprite we want to, whatever name we want to call it. So I'll call mine here, I'll call it cat. So you can see I have renamed my sprite to cat. I've renamed my sprite to cat. So these are the characteristics of your sprite. As you can see, the size of your sprite is 100, which is indicating that it is 100 times, it is 100 percent of its size. That is 100% in mathematics means 1. So it is equal to the size, equal to its normal size. So we can always reduce and increase that size. So as you can see, if I delete this number and change it to 50, we have 50% of its size. As you can see, it is reduced to 50% of its size. So we can always change it back to 100%. So here, the X and Y that you're seeing here, which is 0, 0, indicates the position of your sprite, the position of your sprite. So this play area that we have here can be likened to a graph, can be likened to a graph. So the midpoint here is called has coordinates x coordinate 0 and y coordinate of 0. So if you want to change the position of your sprite, maybe you want to change it manually without having to move the sprite, because you can always double click on this sprite and move it to wherever you want to move it to on the screen. But to change the position of your sprite without having to move it this way, you can always change these values back to wherever you want your sprite to be situated. So as you can see, I changed mine back to 0 and 0 after moving it along the play area, and as you can see, it's back to the midpoint. So this here is used to show or hide your sprite. It's used to show or hide your sprite. So when the eye icon here is highlighted, you are showing your sprite, and when it is not highlighted, you are hiding your sprite. So this here is just to point your sprite in a particular direction. As you can see here, it is pointing in the direction 90 degree. You can always change that direction. You can always change that direction to wherever you want it to point at, wherever you want it to point to, either left or right or left. So you can change it from here to, let's say, minus 90. So it will face the other direction. But we want it to be at 90. So let's leave it to 90. 90. So as you can see, it's 90. So that's all about the characteristics of a sprite. So to choose another sprite, let's say we don't like the sprite we are seeing on the screen. Let's say we don't like this and we want to choose another sprite entirely. You can come down here. You can come down here to where my cursor is presently and change your sprite. So you can either choose a new sprite. You can search for a sprite that you want to choose. You can paint a new sprite. That is, you can draw your own sprite from scratch. Maybe you want to draw something. Maybe you're very good at drawing and you want to draw your own sprite yourself. You can always paint a sprite, or you can ask the computer to surprise you. You can ask the computer to surprise you with a sprite. And ask the computer to surprise you with a sprite. This here chooses a random sprite. Chooses a random sprite from the list of sprite. Chooses a random sprite list of sprite for you, and then you can upload a sprite. You can go on your computer and get whatever you want to use as your sprite and upload from your computer. So when you click on this, so you can see it will upload a sprite. You get to upload your sprite from your computer. So moving on, you can choose a sprite yourself. We have a lot of sprites that are available in Scratch. So once you click on this, it gives you the option to choose from a myriad of sprites. You have plenty sprites you can choose from. You can have Abby, you can have Andy, you can have Amina. As you can see, once I place my cursor on some of these sprites, you can see them performing a sequence of movements. Like Andy here is throwing a basketball. But you can see Apple here does not throw a basketball. Banana does not do anything. The bear stands and walk. This bear is actually walking. The beach ball does nothing. So this kind of sprites that perform a sequence of movements are called animated sprites. Animated sprites. Animated sprites. While the ones that don't perform any movement, that are just stagnant, are not animated. They are non-animated sprites. They are non-animated sprites. Sprites like the bell, the basketball, the apple, they are non-animated. While sprites like Avery walking, ballerina are all animated sprites. Are all animated sprites. So you can choose from any sprite you want to, any sprite you want to. But I'll be using my cat sprites. I'll be using my cat sprites for any illustration for now. So look at, you can see here we have on the play area we have just a white background surrounding the sprites. So whatever comes behind this sprite, whatever fills this play area here is called our backdrop. It is called our backdrop. So to select from the we have a lot of backdrops in Scratch too, just like we have a lot of sprites, we have a lot of backdrops too. Select a certain backdrop, a particular backdrop you want to use. You can come down here and choose a backdrop and choose a backdrop. There are a lot of backdrops here, a lot for you to select from. We have the Arctic, we have the baseball one, we have the baseball two, we have basketball one, basketball two. There are a lot of backdrops to choose from, a lot. We even have an underwater backdrop that would simulate the underwater environment. So you guys should know about the aquatic environment here. So anything you want to do on Scratch, you have the spotlight backdrop to simulate a party. You have the soccer backdrop. You can even simulate a soccer field. So a lot of things can be done with Scratch, a lot. So we'll be going into that today. So going on, moving on from that, so we have other parts of the Scratch interface that we can play around with. So like I said, we have three custom tabs on Scratch. We have the codes tab, we have the costumes tab, and we have the sounds tab. So the code tab involves all the blocks that you can use to play around with, all the blocks you can use to write codes on Scratch. So we have the motion, the looks, the sound, the events, the control, the sensing, the operators, the variables, and the my blocks. So I'll be explaining everything that these blocks do and what they are able to do and what you're able to do with them. And we have the costumes tabs. The costumes tab here has to do with every individual sprite or backdrop. So for a sprite or backdrop, you can edit different you can actually change the color of your sprite if you don't like this color. So to do that, you have to come down to the costumes tab here and change the color of your sprite. So for example, let's say we don't like the color of this sprite and we want to change the color of our sprite. Let's say we want to change the color of our sprite. We don't like the color. We can highlight the sprites here, highlighting by double clicking or clicking once and dragging. You'd see a striped line around the sprite, so you can just highlight the sprite by dragging along, by dragging over the area which the sprite is situated here and changing the color. So we can change the color to whatever color we want. So you come down to fill and change the color. So you can see we can change the color to whatever color we want our sprite to look like. So there are a lot of colors to select from. Well, I don't like this color. I like it how I like the sprite how it was. So I can just revert whatever changes I have made here by clicking on this button here. So you can just revert that change and it goes back to its initial size. So you can change the color of the sprite. You can draw a new sprite. You can do a lot in the costume style. You can also change the costume of your sprite. As you can see, this is different from this. So these two costumes are what makes the sprite, are what animates our sprite and makes it look like our sprite is working. So we have two costumes for this sprite, costume one and costume two. So we're going to be playing around with the costumes too. So that is all you can do in the costume. So you can also delete a sprite in the costumes tab. You can do a lot of things in the costumes tab. So we're going to be playing around with that too. And then the sounds tab. The sounds tab is used to add a particular sound to your sprite. As you can see, there's a default sound for this cat sprite here. Let's hear the sound. So to play that sound, you can come down here and play the sound. I hope you can hear the sound that is being played right now. So this is the sound, or this is one of the sounds that we have available in Scratch, and the name is called meow. So it's like imitating the cat. So we can choose another sound. If we don't like the sound that we have presently, we can choose another sound entirely. So we'll come down to the bottom leftmost corner of our screen, and as you can see, just like our sprite, we can either search for a sound or we can record a sound. Let's say we don't like the sound, the entirety of the sounds we have on Scratch, and we want to record a sound of our own. We can record a sound on Scratch. And then we can also surprise ourselves with the sound. And Scratch can choose any random sound it wants to. And then we can also upload a sound. Let's say you want to upload a song, or maybe you want to recreate what's the name of this cartoon that we watch? PJ Masks. Let's say want to recreate PJ Masks, then we can just go and get download PJ Masks sound from the internet and then upload that sound into our project in Scratch. So we can also choose from myriad of sounds we have in Scratch. So let's click on this and we can see we have a lot of sounds available to us on Scratch. A lot of sounds available to us on Scratch. So we can choose from that too. So a lot of sounds. Yes, so that is how we can choose from the sounds we have available for us on Scratch. So moving on. So let's start by writing a simple code or using at least one of these blocks to see how it works in the play area. So let's add a backdrop. Let's add a backdrop first. Let's add a backdrop. So what backdrop do I add? A cat does not stay in a jungle. A cat stays in a city. A cat stays in a city, so it's not a wild animal, it's a domestic animal. So we would want to use, let's say, this a witch house. A witch house. In cartoons, and witches tend to love to keep cats. So let's use that. Let's use that. So there's another cat here in the room, but let's use our own cat. So so to see these cards, let's say now we have different types of blocks and codes that I said in the code tab. We have different types of code blocks. So we have the motion block. So let's start with the motion block and see what we can do with the motion block. So we can do a lot with the motion block. We can move 10 steps. As it said here, there's a block. The first block we see here is the move 10 steps block. So to move 10 steps, we can, when we click on this, so you can see, if you can see clearly, the card moves 10 steps. The card moves 10 steps. So to be very sure about the change and see how it is moving, look at your X coordinates here. Once we click on this, you can see it changes by a value of 10. We have 30, we have 40, we have 50, we have 60, 70, 80. So you can see the value keeps changing by a value of 10. So you can move 10 steps. So if you want to change the number of steps you want to move, you can change the value in the white box here to, let's say, 40 steps. You can see it moves 40 steps. Moves 40 steps. So other blocks here that all these blocks that you can see here relate to moving your sprite. However you want to move your sprite. Let's say you want to turn your sprite 15 degrees in the clockwise direction. So you can see you can do that. You can see, let's say you want to turn it in the other direction, 15 degrees, you can do that too. Let's say you want to go to a random position, you just want your sprite to move to a random position in your play area. You can do that. As you can see, your sprite keeps moving to random positions on your play area. So that's anything that has to do with moving your sprite can be found in your motion block. So you can tell it a specific location with the go to. You can glide to a random position. Gliding is like sliding along the play area. You can glide to a certain position. You can point your sprite in another direction. You can point it in any direction you want to. You can point towards the mouse pointer. That is, let's say you want your sprite to always move towards your mouse pointer. To always move towards your mouse pointer or point towards your mouse pointer, you can do that too. So that's that's all the things you can do with your sprite. So in the motions block. So moving on to the next block, we have the looks block. The looks block here allows you to display, allows you to tell your sprite to say something. Once it says something, anything that is being displayed on your sprite or on your backdrop can be found in the loose block. Let's say, for example, most of us read comics. I think Super Strikers, yes, Super Strikers. That is for those that know what Super Strikers is. So Super Strikers, whenever the characters in Super Strikers want to say something, you see a certain box over their head. Either when they are saying something or they are thinking of something. So you can do that in Scratch using the looks block. For example, the first block you can see here is the say hello for 2 seconds. The say hello for 2 seconds. Now, when you want your sprite to say something for 2 seconds, let's say you want it to say hello for 2 seconds, you can click on this block And then as you see, it says hello for 2 seconds. It says hello for 2 seconds. So you can do a lot with the looks block. Let's say you want it to think. You want it to think. You don't want it to say. You want it to think. To think for 2 seconds or think about something for 2 seconds. You can click on this. Then it thinks for 2 seconds. And let's say you want to change. Like I said, we have a lot of costumes for each sprite, and you want to change the costume of your sprite. You want to change it to the other costume that you have in Scratch. So you can just click on the next costume block, and it changes its costume. It changes its costume. And let's say you want to select another backdrop. Let's say you added a list of backdrops in your costumes that you want to change the backdrop. You can also change the backdrop. So in looks, you can also change the size of your sprite. You can change the size. You can change the color. You can show or hide your sprite. Let's say you want to show your sprite. You show when you want to hide your sprite, you can hide your sprite and it disappears, but it is still there. But you can just see it, so you can show your sprites too. And then what else? Let's say you want to go, let's say you want to put your sprite behind your backdrop. You can, here you can click on this drop down and say go to back layer, and then it goes to the back layer, or either comes to the front layer. So that is has a lot of things you can do with your scratch, with your sprites. So moving on, we have the sounds block. The sounds block allows you to play whatever sound you have added in the sound tab here. It allows you to play whatever sound you have added. Let's say we added a sound tab. Let's say we added dance magic. Let's say we added dance magic, and then you can come down here and select this block which plays sounds magic until it is done. So you can do this. As you can see, plays the sound for you until it is done. So that's you can do a lot with that. So moving on. So you can also the next block is the event block. So in the sound block, you can do a lot of things. You can you can start playing a sound, then indicate when you want the sound to stop. You can change the pitch of your sound. You can change the volume. You can do a lot with sounds. Anything you can do with sounds in real life, you can also do with sounds in Scratch here. So in the events block now is the block that tells your that allows you to specify um, a condition or an action for your code to work. Let's say, for example, you want to play this sound, but you don't want to play it until something happens. You don't want to play it until you click on a certain. You don't just want the sound to start playing automatically. You want it to be until you click on a certain key or a certain button on the screen in your Scratch interface. Let's say, for example, we have this block here that says when the green flag is clicked, when the green flag is clicked. So this now allows you to, let's say we attach it, let's say we want to build the block of code. Now we attach it to our play sound, dance magic until done. So this sound will only play when we click on this green flag we can see here on our screen. So let's say we click on it now. You see the sound plays. Now the events block allows you to play a sound to perform a function only when certain things happen, only when an action happens. You understand? So that is what the events block is all about. So you have different types of events which we will be using in the course of today's session. So we have the control block. The control block allows you to add structure to your code. It allows you to add structure to your code in the sense that it allows you to tell certain things when to happen and when not to happen, and how many times you want it to happen in your code. Let's say, for example, you want to play this sound when you click the flag, but you want it to wait for let's say 2 seconds or 3 seconds before playing that sound. So you can just come down here, then come down to play sign, then attach all this together. So you can see each block is built on top of each other, there'll be a structure to how your code works. We want the sound to play when we click this flag, but we want to wait 3 seconds before that. So let's see. When I click the flag, 1, 2, 3, and it happens. So you can see. So to stop this from happening, you can just click on this red button here. So this is the play with the go button and the stop button. So to be very sure. So the green flag is also called the go button. This is the stop button. So so these are all other events a control block you can use in Scratch. We have the repeat for a number of time block. We have the forever block. We have the if block, if then block, and we have the if then else block. We have the wait until block and the repeat until block. We have a lot of blocks we can play with in the control block. So we have the sensing block. The sensing block also works like the events block, but the event cannot take any other block on top of it, whereas the sensing block can take another block on top of it. And the sensing block can also work like a condition. So the sensing block senses what happens and reacts to whatever happens in your code. Let's say we want our sprite to ask us what our name is. We want it to ask what our name is. Let's say we're speaking to the sprite. We can use the ask and wait block. So it asks what your name is and takes an answer. So let's say this, we click on this, it says, what is your name? And we say, my name is Idris. It takes that as an answer. So that is what you can do with the sensing block. And let's say, for example, we wanted to say our answer for 2 seconds. Wanted to say our answer. We want to see. Okay. Let's say wanted to say our answer for 2 seconds. We have something called the answer here. The answer button. We can just place it here. And then once this asks, what is your name? And I say Idris. Our sprite says Idris for 2 seconds. So that we can play around with this and do a lot with the sensing block. So we can also react to when a key, when a certain key is pressed, we can also react, we can do a lot in our sensing block. So down to the operators block. The operators block is the block that contains all the arithmetic and logic blocks. Let's say you want to perform an arithmetic operation on two numbers. Let's say you want to add 1 and 2. Let's say you want to get the value of 1 and 2. So let's say we drag the addition block here. Then let's say we type 1 and 2 here. So as you can see, we click on the block, the answer comes out as 3. The answer comes out as 3. So any arithmetic operation you want to perform in Scratch can be found in the operators block. And if it's a logic operator, if you want to check if a number is greater than another number, let's say you want to check here. Let's say we drag this block down to the stage area, and we want to check if 5 is greater than 6. And then you type 5 and 6 there, and you click on the block, you will see false. So 5 is not great. It's telling you that 5 is not greater than 6. But if we type 6 is greater than 5, you can see true. 6 is greater than 5. So 6 is actually greater than 5. So these are a lot of things you can do with the operators block. And then we have the variables block. In Scratch or in programming, a variable is anything or a container that holds a value. A variable is a container that holds a value. So let's say you want to store a value in Scratch. You want to store the value 3. You want to store your name. You want to store anything in Scratch. You can use the variable to store whatever you want to store in Scratch. So to create a variable, you can just come down to the variables block and click on make a variable, and you can create the variable. So these two options here are asking you whether you want the variable to work for all the sprites in Scratch, or you want it to work for these sprites that you're writing a program for alone. So I'll tell it to work for all my sprites. So I'll just create a variable called my variable or my var. Then you have a variable created, and you can store whatever you want to store in that variable. As you can see, the variable has a value here of 0. Variable has a value here of 0, so you can store whatever you want to in that variable. So we have the my blocks. The my block section here is used to create a block of your own. Let's say you want to create a move 40 steps block. You can create that using the my blocks section. So you can just make a block and name the block whatever you want to name it. So you want to name it my B, or my block my B. So I can name it my B. So you just define what your block does, and then when you define that, you attach it to your block and you can use your block. So we're going to be seeing how all that works in the next section of the code. So that is all the blocks we have. And then we also have this which is the extension block, and choose an extension block. So this contains different blocks that can be used, that can be added to your already default blocks that you have available in Scratch. So we have and the pen block. This pen block imitates your pen, and you can use it to draw certain shapes, whatever shape you want to draw. So you can do that with your pen block, with your pen. Yes, you can do that with your pen blocks. You have the music block that has different music keys and sounds. You can use it to make different sounds or make whatever song you want to make. And you have the Lego Mindstorms EV3 block. This is for those that of us that know what Lego Mindstorms is. You can use it to write codes for Lego Mindstorms EV3. So let's create a project. Let's create a project. So let's start creating a new project. So we're going to be creating a project that, let's say we create a game where we have a big fish that eats other fishes. Let's say it eats other fishes. Let's say it's a big fish that actually um, once it's swimming across the river and it eats other fishes, and there's a score that counts the amount of fishes you have eaten, and then it just keeps counting the amount of fishes you have eaten. So the game is a simple game where you can use your mouse to move your fish to whatever other fish you want it to eat. Yes, so let's do that. Because we can also add other features. So to create a new project in Scratch, we'll come down to file here, like I've done. You come down to file and create a new project. So it's asking you to replace contents of the current project. I'll say yes. Okay. Then it does and create a new project for me. So my game is going to involve a fish. I don't want to have a cat here because I want to use a fish. So I can delete this sprite by using the delete box up here to delete that sprite. And I can choose a new sprite. So what sprite do I want to choose? I want to choose a sprite that is an animal. So I can click on here. It's an animal, but what animal do I want to choose? What animal do I want to choose? A shark. So I can use a shark. So let me use the shark. The shark looks beautiful, so I'll use the shark. So I'm using the shark. I don't want my shark to be too big, so I can reduce the size of my shark. Okay, reduce the size of my shark. So all right. Save. So I can reduce the size of my shark. I'm trying to reduce the size of my shark. So I just saved the project. So let me load the project. So to save whatever project you have written on Scratch, let me do that now before the so that you know how to save a project. So to save a project on Scratch, you can always come down here and save to your computer. Save to your computer. Then you would see a save as option popping up. Then I'm going to be saving mine in, yes, I can save it here, and I'll name it Shark. Then I save, and it has saved. So to load whatever you have saved, so I'll just come down to open whatever you have saved on Scratch. You can come here, load from your computer, and then you go down to where you saved your document. I think I saved mine here, and then I load and I open. Replace the current project. Yes, does that, and that is that. So we have our sprite here. So to add a backdrop, we want it to be, we as we said our sprite is going to be in the sea, and it's going to be eating certain animals. It's going to be eating other fishes in the sea. So to add a backdrop, we can come down here and select a backdrop you want to add. I'm going to be using the underwater backdrop because that is the habitat, natural habitat of a shark. It lives underwater. So we're going to be using an underwater. We're going to be using underwater here. Here it is. Good, good. This is beautiful. We have this here. As I can see, our sprite has reduced to a size of 5, which is too small, so we can't see it. So let me change the size to 30. That is still small, so let's make it 50. Is 50 enough? Let me make it 70. I want it to be bigger than other fishes in the river, so it is not intimidated by the other fishes in the river. So let's also add other fishes that our sprite would eat. So what other fishes do we add? We have the starfish. Let's add the starfish. So the starfish, and the starfish shouldn't be bigger. It shouldn't be bigger than our shark. So let's make it the size 50. Yes, let's make it size 50. And what other fish can we add? What other fish can we add? We have the we have this little fish here. What's the name of this fish? Yes, we have this fish here. Yes. So as you can see, this fish is animated. It can change from, it has different costumes. Let's go check the costumes. It has different costumes. Fish B, fish C, fish. So we have a lot of fish that we can change to. So let's point in the other direction. Let's point in another direction. So let's face it in another direction. Good. So I want it to be facing my shark. I want it to be facing my shark, and I want to reduce the size to 50% of its size, so it's smaller. Good, good, good. So what we want to do now is write a code for the shark. We want to write a code for the shark. So now we want our shark to keep moving as we move our mouse. We want it to point in the direction of our mouse and follow our mouse so that we can use our mouse to direct our shark to where we want it to move to. We want it to what? Move to. So we're going to start with, first we're going to start with, want to move our shark, right? So we're going to have to use the move 10 steps block. So let's first select all the blocks that we think we're going to be needing for our game. So we're going to select the move 10 steps block. So after selecting that, we want it to point, we want our scratch to move with our mouse pointer. So we will say point towards the mouse pointer. This will also need this. We also need this sprite. Also need this block. Sorry. And then what else do we need? We want it to so we can attach this to this, and we want this to happen for as long as the game continues. For as long as the game continues. So we can come down to control and select a forever loop. A forever loop. The forever loop makes something happens forever, continuously, for as long as our events or whatever condition we set happens. So we can enclose these two inside the forever loop. And then we can come down to an event and say, as long as the green flag is clicked, you want the mouse pointer, want to point the sprite towards the mouse pointer and forever move 10 steps. So let's test that. So we click on the red flag. As you can see, as long as we move our mouse pointer, we can see our shark moving along. So as you can see, once it's touching this, it's reacting. So we want it to keep following our mouse pointer to wherever we take it to. As you can see, this is cool, very cool. So good. So okay, good. So it's working fine. So you can stop this, bring it down. So to make this point in a very good direction, you can come down to motion and click on the point in direction 90. Good. Good. So now what do we want to do? Now we've written a code for this to always move and then move along, to always move around when we move with our mouse. We've been able to achieve that. So moving on, we want to tell the starfish and the other fish that whenever this shark touches you, whenever the shark touches you or comes close to you or touches you, we want you to either disappear. And after it has done that, we want to count. We want to give a point to, or a score to our fish that it has eaten so amount of fish. So amount of what? Fish. Understand? So now what we can do is that we can come down. So let's look for what sprite will help us do that. What sprite will help us do that? Is it the look sprite? No, it can't be the look sprite. Is it the sound sprite? No, it can't be the sound sprite. Is it the event sprite? No, it can't be the event sprite. Control? No. Touching? Sensing? Yes. It's a sensing sprite because it is what senses what happens in in Scratch. So let's look for the blocks we would need. We would need the touching mouse pointer, but we don't want it to be the touching mouse pointer. I want it to be the if it is touching the what? The shark. If our sprite here is touching the shark, we want something to happen, right? We want something to happen. But we've not actually told it, we've not actually selected a control, a structure. So we're going to be using the um, if condition. So we say if this is touching shark 2, so we attach that condition to this. Attach that condition to this. If it's touching shark 2, what do we want to happen? What do we want to happen? Do we want to so now what we can do is that first we can say uh we first we want to have a lot of starfishes. We want to have a lot of starfishes appearing, and we want to have a lot of or the other fish appearing. We want to have a lot. So we would want to say as long as he eats one fish, another fish should appear, right? If he touches one fish, another fish should appear. So we can come here, and say, so what we want is that, okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. Once you touch this fish, want to hide the fish so it doesn't show anymore. It doesn't show anymore. So what we can do is that we would say if the shark is touching, if this our fish is touching shark 2, we want it to disappear. So we'll come down to looks and say hide. Come down to looks and say hide, right? So let's test that and see what happens. So we're going to first, we've not told it on what event will it happen. So we want it to be that when the flag is clicked, all this takes place. So let's click on this. So we can just drag this to our okay. So our code is presently not working. So we're going to debug it and see why it is not working. Okay, so let's stop this, drag this back. Okay, so if it is touching shark 2, we want it to hide. So this should work, but let's see. It seems the control structure we used is not working. So let's look for another control structure. So let's use the wait until block and see if that works. So wait until it is touching shark 2, then we want you to hide. So let's see if that works. Good, it has worked. So it has hidden the sprite when it is touching shark 2. Then what else do we want to happen? Now we want to have a test score. We want to have a test score that would update when your shark eats one of the fishes, either the starfish or the other fish. So we'll come back down to starfish. Now we don't have anything that would hold that test score for us. We don't have anything that would hold that. So what do we have in Scratch that can hold a value for us? We have the variables operator. Have the variables block, sorry, that can hold a variable or a value for us. So let's make a variable and let's make it for all the sprites. So we would say the name of the variable is my or score. Let's make it score. So we've made a variable called score. And then what does this variable do? So what does this variable do? So let's tell the variable what to do. So when the flag is clicked and when this touches the starfish, and the starfish is hidden, we want to increase the test score. So we have something called change the test score or change my variable by 1. So we can come down here and drag this and hide. So we can change, so we come down here and change it to score. Change the score by 1. Change the score by 1. But initially, if we do that, even if we quit the game and restart, the test score still remains 1. So we want to always initially tell our computer to set our test score to 1. So we can drag the set this out and go down to our shark, click on our shark, and set the test score to 0 every time this is clicked. So it restarts our game from scratch for us. So we can also, now we've done, this code we wrote was for the starfish alone. So the starfish alone, we can also write that same code for the other fish. So what we'll just do is that we'll come down to that fish, we'll say when the flag is clicked, what should happen? We want it to wait until, which is in the control block, wait until, come down to sensing, touching shark. Then we can come down to looks and say hide. Then what else? What happens after that? We would say change score by 1. Change score by 1. Change score by 1. So but when the game starts, we want each and every fish or other fishes to show. So we can always say when the flag is clicked, come down to looks and say show. And then when the flag is clicked, come down to looks and say show. Have we done that? So let's click on the flag and see what happens. So when click on the flag, you can see it has appeared. So we'll click on this, you can see show. The problem now is that once it hides, once it goes hidden, we cannot get more fishes. We've eaten all the fishes, but we want the fishes to keep appearing so we can keep eating more fish. So our shark can keep eating. Our shark can keep eating. So we want to do something about that. So what can we do about it? We can say once this has happened, once it has changed the score by 1 and then it has hidden that that fish, we can always create there's something called create a clone in Scratch. We can always create a clone. We can find that in the controls block. So we can create a clone of that Scratch. Create a clone of that sprite, sorry, and let's say move it to another position on the play area. So let's try that. So what if we create a clone of this starfish? Then we want that clone to show, not hide. We want it to show, and then as it shows, we want it to move. Or let's say it moves to another area, then show. So we now want it to move. That's motion. We say glide to a random position. Glide to a random position. And then show yourself. Want it to show itself. So let's see that work. So when we click on this, and then we do this, see, it appears in another position, right? When it appears now, nothing, once the shark goes to it, nothing happens to that clone. So we want something to happen to that clone. So a clone, sorry if you guys don't understand what a clone is like another copy of somebody, another copy of something. So when you create a clone of something, you create another copy of that thing. than that copy of that thing. So okay. So what we do now is that we would also reproduce this copy. What we do now is that we'll tell the clone. So when I start as a clone, so now we want to tell you that when this guy starts, when this clone appears, what do we want to happen? We want it to also wait until want it to wait until this touching shark happens. So we'll come down and select the touching shark here, and then here, then we'll now say you should also hide. You should also what? Hide. So that, or we can say you should even delete that clone, since it's a clone. It's a clone, it can be deleted since the original starfish is still there. So we'll just say delete the clone. So we'll say delete. So we can find delete this clone in delete clone in the control block. So delete this clone. You understand? But we want this one we've written now to keep happening forever. So it keeps creating that clone of itself every time this happens. And one thing we also want to happen is that we want to update the test score every time it touches the clone too, not when it touches itself alone. So we'll come down to variables and also say change my variable by 1 after it touches this, and change that variable to what? Score. Then delete this clone. And as I said, we want this to keep happening forever as long as this code is working. So we'll come down to controls and
Sorry,
select.
sorry, Mr. Idris. Sorry
Yes, I'm
for
listening.
holding you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry guys, for those of us that will be attending the innovation and design thinking class, it's going to start in the next 4 minutes, so we can just go to the other class when we are done here. Thank you. You can carry on, Mr. Idris.
Okay, thank you very much. I won't take so much of their time. I'll just try and finish up. So to make this happen forever, to make this one happens forever, so we can just come down to the forever loop and add it to the totality of the game here. So this keeps happening forever, and all this keeps happening forever. So we can recreate that code for our fish too. So we can just complete the fish and make sure that um, this happens. And for the fish, we also want to change the costume, since we have a lot of costumes when the shark touches it. So let's first see this work and see how it works. So we can come down, take our starfish, another appears. Then we can come here, take our starfish, another appears, take our starfish, and you can see it keeps changing. It keeps changing. It keeps changing. The test score keep updating. Test score keep updating. So as you can see, we've created something like a game. So what we can do now, I think because of this, for the sake of time, I'll be giving you guys this as an assignment. So what I want you guys to do after this class now is to recreate what we just recreated now for the staff, for the other fish. For the other fish, what I want to happen when the shark touches the fish is that the clone that it will be creating, would have the other costume of this fish, the other costume of the fish, so that the fish keeps changing every time. So it will have the other costume of the fish. So that's what I want to do, and it will also update the test score or the score. It also update the score as it touches that fish. So I want you to recreate what we have for the starfish for the other fish here, and then bring that next week as a solution to your assignment. So if you can do that, then we can continue making our game and adding more interesting features to our game, such as the game over screen, the start game screen, and something like we can also add, we can also make these fishes move around, so it doesn't just stay in one place and wait for the shark to come and get. So that it makes the game a bit harder for us to achieve. Because one of the most fun thing about games is when they are a bit harder to achieve. So it will be very easy. It will be very interesting for us to do. So that's just the basics of what you can do with Scratch. I hope you guys have been able to understand. And if you have any questions, you can always send that to the chat box and into the comment box for the next 1 minute that we have before the class ends. So I'll be entertaining questions for the rest of the 1 minute. So thank you. I'm waiting. Whatever you don't understand, you can send to the chat box and I will answer that question. So we have 1 minute, 1 minute for our questions. Just 1 minute. This is 12:59. We have 1 minute for our questions, so that we can all go for the next class. We have 1 minute for our question. I'm waiting. Is there anything you don't understand that you want me to expatiate on? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for your questions, because I will be asking for my assignments next week. You will be giving me the assignment next week. Any question? All right. This is 1 p.m. In the absence of no questions, we have come to the end of the session for today. And I hope you guys have been able to understand what I have taught. And in case you don't understand still, and you're very shy to ask your questions now, you can always ask me those questions next week during the next session. So please have a lovely day, and you can go for the innovation and design thinking class now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Idris. I think we have come to the end of this section for today. For those of us that signed up for the innovation and design thinking class, it has already started, so we can go back there and continue with Mr. Gundozi. Thank you and bye
All right.
for
Thank you,
now.
guys. Take care.
Yep.